Armin Khan had never planned to become famous in school. In fact, he preferred the exact opposite. He liked sitting in the second row, answering questions only when teachers asked, and quietly winning debate competitions without drawing too much attention. Debate was the one thing he truly loved: arguments, logic, persuasion. Words felt like chess pieces in his mind. But one rainy Monday morning at Riverside High School, everything changed. The school auditorium buzzed with excitement. Students filled the seats while teachers stood along the walls holding clipboards. A big banner hung above the stage. Inter-School Girls Debate Championship. Armin blinked at it. Girls Debate Championship, he muttered. Next to him, his best friend Bilal leaned back in his chair.
Yeah.
Big competition. Only girls allowed. 10 schools coming, Bilal said casually. Armin frowned. That's weird, why announce it in the whole school assembly? Before Bilal could answer, Principal Rahman walked to the podium. The auditorium fell silent. Students, the principal began, adjusting his glasses. As you know, Riverside High has dominated debate competitions for the past 5 years. Armin tried not to smile. He had personally won 3 of those. But this year, the principal continued, the national board has introduced a special competition. The Girls' Debate Championship. Students whispered across the hall. The principal raised his hand. Unfortunately, we have a problem. Armin suddenly felt a strange sense of danger. Our school's girls' debate team is unavailable. More whispers. The principal sighed. 2 are injured, 1 transferred schools, and 1 is representing the city in athletics. Bilal leaned toward Armin. This sounds bad. The principal continued. If Riverside fails to send a participant, our 5-year debate winning streak will officially end. Now the teachers looked worried. Armin folded his arms. Well, that's unfortunate, he thought. Then the principal said something that made the entire hall freeze. So, the debate department has proposed an unusual solution. The debate teacher, Ms. Sanaa, slowly walked onto the stage. She looked directly at Armin. Armin felt his stomach drop. Bilal whispered, "Why is she looking at you?" Ms. Sanaa cleared her throat. There is one student in this school who could easily win this championship. Everyone turned. Armin wished the floor would swallow him. Yes, she continued, Armin Khan. The entire hall started murmuring. Armin stood up nervously. Ma'am? But, Ms. Sanaa said slowly, the competition only allows female participants. Bilal's eyes widened.
Oh no.
Armin suddenly understood where this was going. No. No, no, no. Ms. Sanaa spoke calmly. So we had an idea. The principal nodded. If Armin could temporarily participate disguised as a girl, we could still defend Riverside's title. The entire auditorium exploded. Students laughed. Teachers whispered. Bilal slapped his forehead. Armin turned bright red. You can't be serious. But Ms. Sanaa smiled. Oh, we're very serious. Armin shook his head rapidly. There is absolutely no way I'm doing that. The principal folded his arms. Before you refuse, Armin, consider something. Armin sighed. What? If Riverside loses this championship, the school will lose its debate funding next year. The room fell quiet. Ms. Sanaa added gently. And the debate club might be shut down. Armin froze. Debate club was his world. 3 years of hard work. Competitions. Late-night practice sessions. Trophies. All gone. Bilal whispered beside him. Man, that's rough. Armin rubbed his face. This is insane. Ms. Sanaa stepped closer. You'd only need to participate for 1 day. The principal nodded. No one from other schools knows our students personally. Bilal leaned over again. You actually could pull it off. Armin glared at him. You're not helping. The principal added one final line. And if you win, Riverside becomes the first school ever to win 6 debate championships in a row. The hall went quiet again. Everyone stared at Armin. His brain raced. This is ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. But the debate club. Finally he sighed. Hypothetically, what would this involve? Ms. Sanaa smiled in victory. Well, first. She pulled out a folder. You'd need a new identity. Armin swallowed. Identity? Yes. She opened the folder. On the top page was a name written in bold letters. Ariana Khan. Bilal burst out laughing. Oh, this is going to be amazing. Armin covered his face. I regret asking. Ms. Sanaa continued enthusiastically. You'll wear the girls' debate uniform. Absolutely not. And we'll give you some basic training to act naturally. This is a terrible idea. And tomorrow morning, she finished, you'll represent Riverside High. Armin slowly lowered his hands. Tomorrow? The principal nodded. No time to waste. Bilal grinned. Congratulations, Ariana. Armin groaned. Kill me now. Ms. Sanaa handed him the folder. Inside were a fake student ID, a debate topic list, a schedule for the championship. Armin stared at the name again. Ariana Khan. He looked up nervously. One question. The principal nodded. Yes. What if someone figures out I'm not a girl? The principal smiled calmly. Then we'll be disqualified. Bilal added dramatically. And the entire school will hate you forever. Armin glared at him. Thanks. Ms. Sanaa clapped her hands. All right. Preparation starts after school. Armin sighed. This is the worst Monday of my life. Bilal grinned. No. He pointed at the schedule. Tomorrow will be. Armin looked at the final line printed at the bottom of the page. Final round judge, national debate champion, Sarah Mirza. Armin froze. He knew that name. Sarah Mirza was famous for detecting weak arguments instantly. If she suspected something strange, everything would collapse. Armin slowly looked up. Ms. Sanaa. Yes? What if the judge starts asking personal questions? The teacher paused. Then she smiled nervously. Well, that would be unfortunate. Armin's heart sank. Because suddenly he realized something terrifying. Winning the debate might actually be the easy part. The hard part would be convincing everyone that Ariana Khan was real. And tomorrow morning, the championship would begin. But there was one thing none of them knew yet. Someone at the competition already suspected something. And they were watching closely. Armin had debated in front of hundreds of people. He had argued with judges, professors, and rival champions. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the horror he faced that afternoon. He stood outside the girls' preparation room in the debate club building. Inside, he could hear voices. Girls laughing. Fabric rustling. And someone saying, "Bring the makeup kit." Armin looked at Bilal with a face full of despair. This is your fault. Bilal nearly choked laughing. How is this my fault? You encouraged them. I encouraged winning, not this, Bilal said, gesturing toward the door. Before Armin could respond, the door suddenly opened. 3 girls from the debate club stood there. Sanaa, Hiba, and Meher. All 3 were smiling far too widely. Oh good, Sanaa said cheerfully. He's here. Armin took a slow step backward. No. Hiba grabbed his arm. Yes. Bilal stepped away like a traitor. Good luck, Ariana. Armin pointed at him in betrayal. I will remember this. The girls pulled Armin inside the room. The door shut behind him. Bilal stayed outside, laughing like someone watching a disaster movie. Inside the room, a long table was covered with things Armin had never seen used so seriously before. Makeup brushes. Hair clips. Foundation bottles. A neatly folded girl's school uniform. Armin stared at it like it was a dangerous animal. That is not happening. Meher crossed her arms. You agreed to help the debate club. I agreed to debate. Yes, Sana said sweetly, and this is how you'll debate. Armin rubbed his face. This is insane. Hiba handed him the uniform. Go change. No. Yes. No. Sana leaned closer. If you don't, the debate club closes next year. Armin groaned loudly. You people are evil. 10 minutes later. Armin stood behind a folding screen, struggling with the uniform. This skirt is illegal. Just zip it. Meher called from outside. I feel like I'm wearing a tablecloth. That's the pleated design. Finally, Armin stepped out. The room went silent. The girls looked at him. Then all three burst out laughing. Oh wow, Hiba said, wiping tears. You look terrified. I am terrified. The uniform actually fit surprisingly well. But Armin refused to look at himself in the mirror. Next step, Sana announced. No. Yes. Makeup. Armin sighed deeply. If my ancestors can see me right now. Meher pulled out a chair. Sit. 30 minutes later. Armin stared at the mirror. He didn't recognize the person looking back. His messy hair had been styled into a soft shoulder-length look using a wig that matched his natural color. Light makeup softened his features. The uniform fit neatly. Even his posture had somehow changed. He blinked slowly. That's not me. Hiba grinned. Oh, that's definitely you. Meher added proudly. Congratulations. You're officially Ariana Khan. Armin groaned again. This cannot be real life. Sana handed him a small mirror. Practice smiling. Armin tried. It looked like he was in pain. No, Meher said. Less scared. He tried again. Still terrible. Hiba shook her head. We have work to do. An hour later, Armin walked down the empty school hallway. In a skirt. He walked carefully, like someone navigating a minefield. Bilal leaned against a locker waiting. When he looked up, he froze. Then his eyes widened. What? Armin crossed his arms. Say one word and I end our friendship. Bilal slowly circled him. This is unbelievable. I hate everything. No, seriously, Bilal said, amazed. You actually look like a girl. Armin sighed. Fantastic. Bilal pointed. Walk again. No. Come on. Armin reluctantly walked a few steps. Bilal nodded thoughtfully. Still too stiff. Armin glared. I am not training for a fashion show. Well, you can't walk like a robot tomorrow. Armin leaned against the wall. I can't believe I'm practicing how to walk. Bilal smirked. Champion debater, defeated by a staircase. Just then, footsteps echoed in the hallway. A group of younger students walked around the corner. Armin panicked. Hide me. Bilal shoved him behind a locker row. The students passed by, chatting casually. One of them glanced briefly toward Armin. She frowned slightly. Armin held his breath. But then the group kept walking. When they disappeared, Armin sighed with relief. That was too close. Bilal grinned. Relax, Ariana. Armin pointed at him again. One more time and you're dead. That night, Armin sat in his room studying the debate topics. He still wore the wig while practicing. His reflection stared back at him from the mirror. A completely different person. He whispered quietly. Ariana Khan. Tomorrow he would face 9 rival schools, professional judges, a national debate champion, hundreds of students, all while pretending to be someone else. He took a deep breath. Just debate, he told himself. Focus on the arguments. Then his phone buzzed. A message from Ms. Sanaa. He opened it. Important update. Armin frowned. Another message appeared. The judge Sarah Mirza requested to personally meet all contestants before the competition tomorrow morning. Armin froze. A personal meeting? That meant conversation. Questions. Close observation. He slowly typed back. Why? Ms. Sanaa replied. She says she likes to talk to debaters before judging them. Armin stared at the message. Then another message appeared. Also, she's known for detecting when contestants are hiding something. Armin's stomach dropped. He looked at his reflection again. Ariana Khan, he whispered nervously. Tomorrow. He wouldn't just need to debate. He would need to fool one of the sharpest debate judges in the country. And if she suspected the truth, the championship and his secret would collapse instantly. But there was something Armin didn't know yet. At that exact moment, in another part of the city, Judge Sarah Mirza was already looking at the list of contestants. And one name had caught her attention. She tapped the paper thoughtfully. Ariana Khan. She narrowed her eyes. Strange. Because she had a feeling. She had heard that name before. And tomorrow morning, she intended to find out why. Armin didn't sleep well. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the same nightmare. Judge Sarah Mirza staring at him and suddenly shouting. Wait a minute. That's a boy. Then the entire auditorium would gasp. The principal would faint. Bilal would laugh. And the debate club would be destroyed forever. By the time morning arrived, Armin had slept maybe 2 hours. At 7:30 a.m., the Riverside debate team gathered outside the City Academic Convention Center. The building was enormous. Banners hung from the entrance. National Girls Debate Championship. Students from different schools filled the courtyard. Dozens of girls in debate uniforms stood in small groups, practicing arguments and reviewing notes. Armin stepped out of the car slowly. In full disguise. Skirt. Blazer. Wig. Light makeup. He immediately felt hundreds of invisible eyes watching him. This is a mistake, he whispered. Bilal leaned against the car door. Relax. I cannot relax. I am committing identity fraud in public. You're committing debate excellence, Bilal corrected. Ms. Sanaa approached them. All right, everyone listen. Armin tried to stand normally. But walking in the uniform still felt strange. Ms. Sanaa handed him a badge. It read. Contestant, Ariana Khan. Riverside High School. Armin stared at it. Well, Bilal said, it's official. Armin clipped the badge on. I feel like a spy. Inside the convention center, the atmosphere was intense. Large posters showed the debate topics. Students walked past confidently. Some were clearly experienced competitors. Armin swallowed. These girls look serious. Bilal whispered. So are you. Ms. Sanaa guided them toward the registration desk. A volunteer smiled. Name? Armin hesitated for half a second. Then he said quietly. Ariana Khan. The volunteer checked the list. Riverside High? Yes. She handed him a folder. Welcome to the championship. Armin nodded politely. But inside his brain screamed. It worked. No suspicion. No questions. For a moment, he almost felt confident. Then Ms. Sanaa said, "Contestants' meeting room is upstairs." Armin froze. Meeting? Yes. With the judge. His heart dropped. The meeting room was large and quiet. About 15 contestants sat around a long table. Armin walked in carefully. Every step felt unnatural. He sat down between two girls he had never seen before. One of them smiled warmly. "Hi. I'm Zoya from Eastview Academy." Armin forced a polite smile. "Ariana. Riverside." Zoya nodded. "First time here?" "Yes." "Same." Zoya said excitedly. "I'm so nervous." Armin almost laughed. "You have no idea." Across the table, another girl spoke confidently about debate strategies. Everyone seemed comfortable. Except Armin. He kept adjusting his sleeves nervously. Then the door opened. And the room went silent. Judge Sarah Mirza walked in. She was calm, professional, and extremely observant. Her reputation was legendary in debate circles. Sharp mind. Sharp questions. Sharp instincts. She placed a folder on the table and looked around the room. "Good morning." "Good morning," the contestants replied. She smiled slightly. "I like to meet debaters before competitions." Armin's heartbeat increased. Sarah Mirza slowly walked around the table, looking at each contestant carefully. Not just their faces. Their posture. Their reactions. Their confidence. She stopped near Zoya. "Why do you like debate?" Zoya answered confidently. "Because debate teaches us to think critically and defend ideas logically." Sarah nodded approvingly. Then she moved to the next contestant. "And you?" The questions continued. Armin's turn was getting closer. His palms started sweating. Finally. She stopped in front of him. He looked up. For the first time, their eyes met. Her gaze was calm but piercing. "And you?" she asked. "Why do you debate?" Armin forced his brain to stay calm. "Because debate reveals the strength of ideas." Sarah tilted her head slightly. "Interesting answer." Armin stayed quiet. She studied him for a moment longer. Then she asked another question. "Which debate style do you prefer? Logical aggression or strategic patience?" Armin answered automatically. "Strategic patience." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because emotional arguments collapse under pressure," Armin said smoothly. "But structured reasoning becomes stronger when challenged." A few contestants nodded. It was a strong answer. Sarah looked impressed. But she didn't move away. Instead, she asked something unexpected. "How long have you been debating, Ariana?" Armin hesitated. Half a second. Too long. But he recovered. 3 years. Sarah watched him closely. "Your voice sounds familiar." Armin felt ice run through his veins. "Familiar? How?" He tried to smile politely. "I've competed in a few local tournaments." Sarah slowly nodded. But her eyes remained focused. Then she asked something strange. "Have you ever debated in the National Junior Debate League?" Armin's brain exploded. That was the competition he had won last year. But under his real name. Armin Khan. He forced himself to shake his head. "No." Sarah leaned back slightly. She walked away. But Armin noticed something disturbing. She wrote something down in her notebook. Bilal, watching from outside through the glass window, noticed it too.
Uh-oh.
He whispered. The meeting ended 20 minutes later. Contestants began leaving the room. Armin stood up carefully. Zoya smiled again. "You're really smart," she said. "Good luck today." "Thanks," Armin replied. He walked toward the door. But just before leaving, a voice called out, "Ariana." He turned slowly. Sarah Mirza stood behind him. "Yes," he said. She smiled politely. "Just one more question." Armin nodded nervously. "What is it?" She looked directly into his eyes. "Have we met before?" Armin forced a calm expression. "I don't think so." Sarah studied him for another long second. Then she nodded slowly. "Maybe I'm mistaken." Armin walked out. But his heart was racing. Because something was very wrong. Outside the room, Bilal grabbed him immediately. "That judge is suspicious." "I know." She wrote something in her notebook. Armin swallowed. "What kind of something?" Bilal looked serious. "Your name." Armin froze. "What?" "And another name under it." Armin's stomach dropped. "What name?" Bilal took a slow breath. Then said quietly, "Armin Khan." Armin felt the ground disappear under his feet. Because if the judge had already connected those two names, then the championship might be over before it even began. But what Armin didn't know yet was that Sarah Mirza had noticed one more clue. And during the first debate round, she planned to test her theory. Publicly. In front of everyone. The championship auditorium was packed. Students from 10 different schools filled the seats. Teachers and judges sat at the front tables, quietly reviewing notes and contestant lists. A large digital board displayed the first debate topic. Round 1. Social media does more harm than good for students. Armin stood backstage with the other contestants. His badge read Ariana Khan, but his heart pounded like it was shouting his real name. Bilal leaned close to him. "Relax," he whispered. "You've debated harder topics before." Armin sighed. "Yes. But I wasn't secretly pretending to be someone else in front of a national judge." Ms. Sanaa gave him an encouraging nod. "Just focus on your arguments." Across the stage, the judges took their seats. And right in the center sat Sarah Mirza. She opened her notebook. Armin noticed something chilling. 2 names written at the top of the page. Ariana Khan. Armin Khan. She slowly looked up toward the stage. Directly at him. Armin looked away immediately. A bell rang. The host stepped forward. "Welcome to the first round of the National Girls Debate Championship." Applause filled the room. Each contestant will present their argument and respond to questions from the judges. The host smiled. "And remember, strong logic always wins." Armin muttered quietly. "I hope so." The first 2 contestants debated confidently. Arguments about mental health. Statistics about social media addiction. Judges nodded thoughtfully. Sarah Mirza asked sharp questions, challenging weak reasoning instantly. Armin watched carefully. She wasn't just listening to words. She was analyzing everything. Tone. Confidence. Body language. And maybe identity. Then the host announced, "Our next contestant from Riverside High School." Armin took a deep breath. "Ariana Khan." Applause. His legs felt heavy as he walked onto the stage. The lights were bright. The audience huge. But he forced himself to focus. "You're not here to act. You're here to debate." He stepped to the podium. "Good morning." His voice sounded steady. That surprised him. He glanced briefly at the judges. Sarah Mirza watched carefully. Armin began. "Social media connects the world, but connection without control becomes chaos. The room grew quiet. His argument flowed naturally. Statistics. Examples. Logical breakdowns. 3 years of debate training guiding every sentence. He finished his opening with confidence. Social media is not the enemy. Misuse is. Applause followed. Several judges nodded. Even Sarah Mirza looked impressed. But then came the dangerous part. Judge questions. One judge asked first. Can regulations solve the problem you described? Armin responded smoothly. Another judge challenged his statistics. He defended them calmly. Then Sarah Mirza leaned forward. Miss Ariana. Armin felt tension rise instantly. Yes? She rested her chin on her hand. Your argument style is interesting. Thank you. It reminds me of someone. Armin stayed silent. The room waited. Then she asked the question. Have you ever heard of a debater named Armin Khan? Armin's heart nearly stopped. But his face stayed calm. No. Sarah studied him. Really? Yes. She nodded slowly. Interesting. Then she asked something that confused everyone. In debate, do you prefer attacking your opponent's logic or dismantling their assumptions? Armin answered automatically. Dismantling assumptions. Sarah's eyes narrowed slightly. Exactly the same answer he used in last year's championship. The audience murmured softly. Armin kept his expression neutral. She leaned back. One final question. He nodded. Your speaking rhythm, she said slowly, is identical to Armin Khan's. The auditorium grew quiet. Armin forced a small smile. Maybe great debaters think alike. Some people laughed softly. Sarah Mirza didn't. She simply wrote something in her notebook again. Then she said calmly. No further questions. Armin stepped away from the podium. His heart raced. But he had survived. For now. Backstage, Bilal grabbed his shoulders. That was incredible. Armin whispered urgently. She's on to me. Maybe. She compared my style to mine. Bilal shrugged. That just means you're consistent. Ms. Sanaa approached quickly. You handled that perfectly. Armin wasn't convinced. Did you see what she wrote again? Bilal nodded.
Yeah.
Armin swallowed. What this time? Bilal looked worried. She didn't just write your names. Armin felt nervous. What else? Bilal leaned closer. She wrote 3 words. Armin's stomach tightened. What words? Bilal said quietly. Test during final round. Armin felt cold. Final round? That meant she wasn't finished. She had a plan. And whatever it was. It might expose him in front of the entire championship. But something else was happening too. Because while Armin worried about the judge, the scoreboard updated after round 1. And suddenly, the entire auditorium saw something surprising. Top score, Riverside High. Ariana Khan. Armin had just achieved the highest score of the round. Now everyone wanted to see him debate again. Including Sarah Mirza. And if he kept winning, he would eventually face the final round interrogation she had planned. A test designed specifically to reveal the truth. The scoreboard glowed above the auditorium stage. Round 1 results. Riverside High, Ariana Khan. Northgate Academy. Eastview Academy. Westbridge School. A wave of murmurs spread through the crowd. The new contestant from Riverside had just taken first place. Backstage, contestants whispered to each other. Who is she? I've never seen her in competitions before. Her argument structure was amazing. Armin stood quietly, trying not to panic. Bilal whispered beside him. You just became the most famous debater here. That's the opposite of what I wanted. Ms. Sanaa patted his shoulder. Focus. 2 more rounds. Armin looked toward the judge's table. Sarah Mirza was still writing in her notebook. He couldn't tell what she was thinking. And that made everything worse. Round 2. The second round topic appeared on the screen. Artificial intelligence will improve education. Armin debated again. His confidence returned slightly. Arguments flowed smoothly. Rebuttals were sharp. By the end of the round, even rival contestants applauded. But Sarah Mirza remained quiet. Observing. Testing. Studying every word. An hour later, the host returned to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we now announce the final round contestants. The room grew silent. The screen changed. Final round. Eastview Academy, Zoya Malik. Northgate Academy, Sanaa Tariq. Riverside High, Ariana Khan. Applause erupted. Armin felt a strange mix of relief and fear. He had made it to the finals. But that meant one thing. Sarah Mirza's test was coming. Backstage, the 3 finalists waited. Zoya smiled at him again. You're really good, she said. Thanks. I hope we get a fair debate. Armin nodded. So do I. But his attention stayed on the judge's table. Sarah Mirza closed her notebook. And stood up. The final round topic. The host spoke dramatically. The final debate topic is. The screen lit up. Truth is more important than victory. The audience reacted immediately. It was a philosophical topic. Perfect for testing reasoning. But something about it made Armin uneasy. Truth versus victory. Sarah Mirza had definitely chosen this topic. The debate began. Zoya spoke first. Her argument focused on honesty in leadership. Then Sanaa Tariq spoke about ethical responsibility. Both were strong. Very strong. Then the host called the final speaker. Ariana Khan. Armin stepped forward. He looked at the audience. Then at the judges. Finally at Sarah Mirza. He began calmly. Victory without truth is temporary. His argument built carefully. History examples. Logical comparisons. Ethical reasoning. The audience listened closely. Even the judges leaned forward. He finished with confidence. In the end, truth always wins. Even if it arrives later. Applause filled the auditorium. It might have been the strongest speech of the competition. But the real challenge hadn't begun yet. Judge questions. The first judge asked Zoya several questions. The second judge challenged Sanaa's logic. Then Sarah Mirza spoke. She stood up slowly. And addressed the contestants. For the final round. She paused. I will ask each debater one personal question. The audience looked curious. Personal? That was unusual. Zoya answered her question first. Then Sanaa answered hers. Both simple. Both harmless. Then Sarah Mirza turned to Armin. Ariana Khan. Armin stepped forward. Yes? She smiled slightly. Your arguments today were impressive. Thank you. But debate isn't only about arguments. The room was silent. Sometimes, she continued, it's about honesty. Armin felt his heartbeat increase. Sarah Mirza opened her notebook. The same page. 2 names written. Ariana Khan. Armin Khan. The audience couldn't see it. But Armin could. She looked directly at him. And asked her question. Is there anything important you are hiding today? The room went completely silent. Even the audience sensed the tension. Armin's mind raced. If he admitted the truth. The school would be disqualified. The debate club might collapse. If he lied, he would contradict his entire speech about truth. Sarah Mirza waited calmly. Truth is more important than victory, she reminded gently. The same words from the debate topic. The audience watched carefully. Bilal held his breath. Ms. Sana looked terrified. Armin stood at the podium. One decision could change everything. He slowly raised the microphone. And answered. Yes. Gasps spread through the audience. Sarah Mirza's eyes sharpened. Go on. Armin took a deep breath. There is something important I haven't said. The judges leaned forward. The room was completely silent. He was about to reveal the truth. But suddenly, the auditorium doors burst open. A loud voice shouted from the entrance. Stop the competition. Everyone turned. Security guards rushed inside. The host looked confused. What is happening? A man in an official uniform walked toward the stage. Holding documents. This debate competition has a registration violation. The judges stood up. Sarah Mirza frowned. What violation? The man raised the document. One contestant has submitted false identity information. The audience erupted into whispers. Armin felt the blood drain from his face. Someone had discovered the truth. But he hadn't revealed it yet. The official continued. We have received a report that Ariana Khan does not exist. The entire auditorium gasped. Armin stood frozen. Because now the question wasn't whether Sarah Mirza suspected him. The question was. Who reported him? And how did they find out? The entire auditorium had fallen silent. Students whispered. Teachers exchanged worried looks. The official stood at the front holding the document. One contestant has registered with false identity information. Armin's heart pounded so loudly he was sure everyone could hear it. Next to the stage, Bilal looked frozen. Ms. Sana's face had turned pale. On the judges' table, Sarah Mirza watched carefully. Calm. Observant. Waiting. The official continued speaking. Our records show that Ariana Khan does not appear in the National Student Database. The host looked confused. What does that mean? It means, the official said, this contestant may have submitted a false identity. The audience gasped again. Some students even stood up trying to see the stage better. Armin knew there was no escape now. Every second of silence made it worse. Sarah Mirza finally spoke. Let the contestant answer. Her voice was calm but firm. All eyes turned to Armin. He stood alone at the podium. For the first time since the competition began, he felt completely exposed. The debate topic still glowed on the screen behind him. Truth is more important than victory. Armin stared at those words. Then he took a slow breath. And spoke. You're right. The room reacted immediately. Whispers spread across the audience. Armin continued. My name is not Ariana Khan. Gasps filled the hall. Bilal closed his eyes. Ms. Sana held her breath. The official stepped closer. Then who are you? Armin removed the contestant badge slowly. My name is Armin Khan. The auditorium exploded with noise. A boy. What? How is that possible? The judges looked shocked. Except for one. Sarah Mirza. She didn't look surprised at all. Armin continued speaking. I didn't come here to cheat. He looked at the judges. Our school's debate team was in trouble. We had no female contestant. He glanced toward Ms. Sana. So they asked me to participate in disguise. The official frowned. That violates competition rules. I know. But I didn't do it for a trophy. The room quieted again. I did it because if Riverside didn't compete, our debate club would lose funding and possibly shut down. Some students in the audience murmured sympathetically. Armin looked at Sarah Mirza. And during the final question, I was going to reveal the truth myself. Sarah crossed her arms. Because of the debate topic? Yes. Truth is more important than victory, he said. Silence filled the hall. Then Sarah Mirza slowly stood up. She walked onto the stage. Everyone watched closely. She stopped in front of Armin. You debated brilliantly today. Armin stayed quiet. She looked at the judges' table. Then at the audience. And technically, yes, the rules were broken. The official nodded. Therefore the contestant must be disqualified. More whispers spread through the room. But Sarah Mirza raised her hand. However, the entire hall grew quiet again. Before we decide anything, I want to say something. She turned toward Armin. Yesterday, when I read the contestant list, the name Ariana Khan seemed familiar. Armin listened nervously. Because last year, I judged a tournament where a boy named Armin Khan delivered a nearly identical argument style. The audience murmured again. I suspected something this morning, she continued. That's why I tested you. She lifted her notebook. The same page with the two names. But there was one thing I wanted to see. Armin asked quietly. What? Sarah Mirza smiled slightly. Whether the best debater in the room would actually choose truth over victory. The audience became silent again. She turned toward the other judges. I believe we just saw the most honest answer in the entire competition. One judge nodded thoughtfully. Another whispered something to the official. The official hesitated. But the rules. Sarah interrupted gently. Rules protect fairness. But debate also teaches integrity. She looked at Armin again. And today, this contestant proved both. The judges whispered together for a moment. Then the head judge stood up. We will make a special ruling. Everyone leaned forward. Armin Khan will be disqualified as a contestant because the rules were broken. Armin nodded slowly. He expected that. But the judge continued. The debate performance itself cannot be ignored. The audience waited. So today, the official championship trophy will go to the next highest finalist. Zoya from Eastview Academy looked surprised. And she deserves it, the judge added. Applause erupted for Zoya. But then the judge turned toward Armin again. However, he smiled slightly. We would also like to present a special recognition award for debate excellence and integrity. The room became curious. Sarah Mirza picked up a small trophy from the table. She walked back onto the stage. And handed it to Armin. The engraved plate read. Award for Outstanding Honesty and Debate Skill. Armin Khan. The audience began clapping. Then cheering. Some even stood up. Bilal shouted from the back. That's my friend. Ms. Sanaa wiped tears from her eyes. Armin looked at the trophy in disbelief. I didn't expect this. Sarah Mirza smiled. Most real victories are unexpected. She leaned slightly closer and said quietly. Also, next year the championship rules are changing. Armin blinked. What do you mean? Next year, she said, the competition will allow both boys and girls. The audience cheered loudly. Sarah continued. And I hope to see you compete again. Armin smiled for the first time all day. Without the disguise? She laughed. Definitely without the disguise. The auditorium erupted in applause again. And although Armin didn't officially win the championship, he had earned something even more important. Respect. Honesty. And a story the entire debate world would remember. Because in the end, the boy who entered the competition disguised as a girl still managed to prove the most powerful argument of all. Truth really is more important than victory. The end.